everyone. I'm Yasmin Taj, editor, HR World International, and head of branded content for the Economic Times. And with great pleasure, I welcome you all to another episode of the video interview series brought to you by HR World Southeast Asia in collaboration with Enparadigm on the theme Talent Management and Development for the Future of Work. With the challenges and lessons from the pandemic still fresh in people's minds, learning and development and personal well-being will continue to be important considerations in employees' career decisions. Companies should consider how to impart this knowledge as part of their learning and development strategy. In a 2023 workplace learning report by LinkedIn, 89% of L&D pros agreed that proactively building employee skills for today and tomorrow will help navigate the evolving future of work. And we couldn't agree more. Helping employees find a way to shine and navigate future problems is certainly going to be at the top of the company agenda. But how exactly are our leaders planning to curate a winning learning journey for their future workforce? And what are the challenges that stand in their way? To decode some of these winning learning practices for the redefined world of work, we are here in partnership with Enparadigm with an exclusive video interview series on the topic Talent Management and Development for the Future of Work. And for this episode, it is a pleasure to welcome Natalie Tait, Head of Human Resources at Bank of America, Singapore, along with John Cherian, CEO of Enparadigm. Hi, Natalie. Hi, John. Thank you so much for joining us for this episode.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Great. So, thanks. Before we go ahead with our session, I'd like to introduce Natalie and John to the audience. Based in Singapore and a member of the regional HR leadership team, Natalie is Head of Talent Acquisition for the APAC region. She's accountable for leading the TA strategy and all related activities for internal mobility, campus, lateral and contingent hiring across all lines of business. Natalie is also the Singapore country head of HR, and as a member of the country leadership team, she supports the country executive and leaders to strategize and deliver the people priorities, and she supports with the country governance in accordance with regulatory requirements. She has an extensive background in talent acquisition with over 16 years of experience spanning Australia, EMEA, and Asia. She's accountable for leading the TA strategy and all related activities for internal mobility, campus, lateral, and contingent hiring across all lines of business. We also have with us John Cherian, who's CEO of Enparadigm, who is driven by the potential of purpose-driven business to make the world more meaningful. His endeavor to make the complex simple and his belief in the power of learning to make people and businesses better has been the significant driving force in the Enparadigm journey. So without any further ado, let me invite both Natalie and John to share their insights on this very interesting topic today. And the first question that I'd like both my speakers to answer, and Natalie, I'd like to come to you first, is what are some of the top trends that will be driving the talent management and development function in 2023? And according to you, how has L&D played a critical role in uplifting the talent development function in recent years?
Thank you, Jasmine. That's a big question. I think the strategies that we're looking at are really driven by both the macro and sort of micro impacts on the business. And there's none more, I guess, in this particular region than looking at the geopolitical environment that we have here across Asia Pacific, as well as, a very volatile market that we're operating in. So really the strategies that we're looking at and the way that we need to approach that is driven by the changing demographics that we have across the region. And there's all different nuances that come with that in terms of the different countries. Being very aware of the changing dynamics to ensure that we're adhering to sort of a diverse and equitable and inclusive environment as well. And then, of course, being conscious of the business needing to drive revenue in a very cost-conscious and expense management-driven environment as well. So really, it's about looking at our people, our greatest resource, making sure that we can upskill and reskill our employees as the needs change. Certainly being focused in regards to from the bank's perspective, we look at in regards to their physical well-being, their emotional well-being, and their financial well-being, and ensuring that all of our strategies are aligned to that as well. So a number of different trends that are driving what we're looking at Bank of America.
Thanks, Natalie. That's really interesting to know that the focus of the bank is people. People are your core for your business. You know that if you have to drive business with revenue at the core, with cost optimization, also if you can focus on your people in the right manner, upskill them, prepare them for the future, focus on DEI also, I think that's going to be a good way to go forward. John, what are your thoughts? What trends are you seeing and how have you seen the talent development function change in recent years?
So I think, as we all know, 2023 has been a very different world from 2021, 2022. And I think that definitely has an impact in the way the talent management function will run, right? I think the need for productivity today is far higher than what it has been in recent years. And the talent management and development function plays a huge role in that, right? So as Natalie mentioned, being able to align the capabilities of each employee to the needs of the business and being able to achieve the top line and bottom line goals of the business, right? And the associated skills and capabilities that come along with that. I think the focus now shifts to that a lot more than it used to happen earlier.
Yes, I think the way the world of work has changed, especially from 21 to 22 to 2023 now, the focus on people has really become important, as you said, and aligning their capabilities, their skills, also their goals to the goals and capabilities of the organization is going to be very, very important. So thanks for sharing. There's some very impactful trends that we're seeing change the whole talent development function today. So Natalie, I'd like to come back to you now. I think the whole learning function does face a number of challenges. What are some of the emerging challenges that you have seen in the talent development function and the learning function today, especially in your organization?
Yeah, thanks, Jasmine. As you said at the beginning, talent acquisition is my specialty and my passion, but never have I seen more importance in ensuring that from a talent acquisition, we're partnering with our talent and learning team. You know, we've seen over time through the pandemic with the changing market conditions, how increasingly the competition for skills externally is changing. We really need to work with our managers. It's not a new conversation with our managers about where they're going to acquire the skills that they're looking for, but also that they start to think more about skills rather than experience. It's not about trying to find someone who's done the job previously and they can hit the ground running. It's really a need to have a look about what skills are necessary and where they come from. And so to do that, we really need to be working in partnership with our learning and development team who do manage our talent planning process, really work with the managers to understand what skills they need, what skills they have, so that we can then strategize together against which are the skills that we're going to be able to acquire externally from the market. And where we have gaps in that, what are we hiring for? And what infrastructure and programs do we need internally to then build those skills? So that's become a really, really important part of how we're starting to shape the work that we're doing at Bank of America.
I think that's very interesting. The alignment between the talent development and acquisition function is going to be very important, as you said, because what you hire for now has also changed. You don't hire for experience or degrees anymore. It's the kind of job roles that you have defined already and the skills that are needed to perform those job roles. John, what are your thoughts around that? How have you seen, what challenges are you seeing, and how have you seen these two functions working together and coming together recently?
As Natalie mentioned, historically the focus has been more on your experience and what you show on your resume, right? And moving from experience to skill requires a very different approach, right? And so a lot of organizations today are setting up talent marketplaces, right? Where you're able to see for each employee, where are they on a particular set of skills?
Yeah.
And therefore, what is the match between those skills and potential opportunities within the organization? And the same infrastructure is being used for getting people from outside, right? And the challenges that happen over here are in terms of being able to update this repository dynamically. Because while a lot of organizations have set up these kind of repositories, keeping them up to date with evolving changes in the business, in people, in capabilities required for different roles, I think all these still remain challenges for organizations.
Absolutely agree with you, John. I think so, figuring out what skills are working for what job role is going to be the major challenge, I think, going forward also, because the roles are evolving so fast and the skills are changing so fast. How do you keep pace with that? That's one of the major focus areas for the learning and development, also for the talent acquisition teams going forward. So thanks for sharing that. Natalie, can you tell us more or share some more learning initiatives that have been taken at your organization that have made your workplace more inclusive and any newfound expectations you found in your diverse workforce, hybrid workforce in terms of their career development? We'd love to hear that as well.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, the Bank of America is a pretty amazing company. We employ over 215,000 people globally. You know, for the fourth consecutive year last year in 2022, we earned over 15 billion in net income, which puts us in only one of 4 companies around the world. We have one of the most highly engaged, according to some of the ratings, engaged and diverse workforce as well. So certainly no challenge in terms of how we continue to enable our people to grow and learn. One of the really exciting things that I'm pleased to announce has been launched this year in APAC is in 2016, the bank developed the Academy, which is our learning and development organization, originally focused on our consumer, small business, Maryland private bank area, which is now an enterprise-wide platform. And it really enables the employees to tap into a platform with a huge amount of content, both self-learning as well as facilitated learning, and starting to really leverage technology, looking at things like gamification and different ways that people can engage with learning. So this has gone live now, as I said, across APAC and EMEA, and is a global platform. So that's opened up for our employees as well to be able to tap into what you were talking about before. What skills do I need if this is the path that I want to go in my career? Or if I need to build more commercial skills, there are certain career paths that you can tap into to say, you know what, I don't know much about this particular product, or I don't know much about this particular line of business. There's 4 or 5 courses that I can tap into in my own time to go and learn as well. So I think it's a really, really important tool, and one of the ways that the bank actually empowers our employees to go about owning their career development and their own learning as well. The second part of that, though, I would say is manager capability and manager accountability is really, really important. It's great to empower our employees and give them the tools, the infrastructure that's needed, but we also have to have our managers supporting those employees. And one of the programs that Brian Moynihan, our CEO, under his strategy of responsible growth embedded, was a 12-part enterprise management development program, which really is focused around manager capability and covers everything from the commercial side of the business right through to coaching, managing, career development, and giving feedback. And that's mandatory for every person manager to go through in the organization. Off the top of that as well, when we do have those learning pieces, managers actually have briefing sessions, and then they're given then tools to be able to measure the learning outcomes of their people as they go through these courses.
I think that's very interesting to know the journey that Bank of America has gone and the kind of opportunities you're giving to your people, the platform that you've built for them to learn and develop their careers further. I think that's where other organizations can also learn from, because a person owns his or her own career journey, but the organization is also responsible for making them better professionals on the way. So that's a great way. Thanks for sharing that, Natalie. John, I'd like to now ask you maybe first, since you've worked with so many large organizations in your career span, how can we solidify the learning infrastructure to develop and nurture the existing pool of talent? And is the learning team able to consistently get inputs from the business on what's working and what's not working? What has your experience shown you so far?
So I would maybe respond to this question across 3 or 4 key dimensions when it comes to learning infrastructure, right? The first dimension, I am sure you'll agree with me, is that of personalization, right? How do you make sure that the learning is relevant to each employee, for the role that they're currently playing, the role they are going to play, and the business that they're working in, right? And also to the level of skills, proficiency that they currently exhibit, right? And this is an evolving objective for L&D at all times, right? How do you make sure learning is more and more personalized? That's number one, right? Number two, something that we are very passionate about at Enparadigm. How do you make learning more immersive, right? How do you make learning more true to life? Because the challenge with many learning solutions is that, they are very nicely curated and they work very well in the classroom. But when the employee comes back to work, they face a lot of challenge in terms of translating learning back to action, right? And implementing learning. And it's only when that implementation happens well, does the impact come back for the business, right? And that's where the business gets ROI, right? So how do you help that translation from learning to action? By providing the learning itself in a very true to life or real life kind of an environment, right? How do you make it very immersive? How do you make it very experiential? That's another big dimension, right? Yet another dimension is that of availability of learning, right? How do you make it easy for people to learn? How do you make the learning easily available? At the same time, what we've seen is, when a lot of learning gets available, people get very confused as to what to learn, right? And they end up learning nothing. right? And that's one of the challenges a lot of companies have faced. There's no shortage of learning solutions today. There's no shortage of learning content today. But you don't really see learning consumption increasing, because most of the times people are wondering, but what do I really learn, right? So being able to provide very curated paths, right, in terms of saying, you know what, this is the role, and therefore this is the path that you could take, which will help you build relevant capability, right? That becomes very important. So any learning infrastructure that is put in place has to take into account all these aspects: personalization, recommendation, immersiveness. All of these are very important.
And Jasmine, if I just may add there as well, you mentioned before about how to make it more inclusive. I think that's one of the things of bringing those all together, is being able to make sure that we can meet the very diverse needs of our workforce.
Yeah.
People learn in different ways. So being able to make sure, if we now see with all of our video learning that might come available, the transcript is also available, or there's different sound bites that are available as well. How do we actually make it accessible for those that have different needs as well? And so I think that's something that has really come about with the Academy as well, is being able to tap into, as you say, the individualization, the personalization to meet those diverse needs.
Yeah, I think when it comes to creating a learning ecosystem, the first point, I think, and both of you agree to it, how relevant is it for the person that you're creating that program for, right? Because that is where it starts from. Once the learning is relevant, how do you personalize it, as you said? How do you make it more immersive, experiential? And at the end of it, how is that learning applied on the job? How can you figure that out? Organizations, learning leaders, I think it's for everyone to figure out that once the learning program is completed, how is the application been? Figuring that out, finding out ways to measure that, I think that's going to be a good way forward for making the whole learning infrastructure more robust going forward. So any other points around this, Natalie and John, on how we can make the whole learning ecosystem stronger going forward? Or should I move on to my next question?
I think you can move on to your next question.
Great. All right. So coming to skills, I think we've had a long conversation around how important skills are going to be going forward. So Natalie, I'd like to ask you first. I know there are a number of skills that are going to be very, very relevant going forward, but if you had to pick three and share the top three skills that will power the future of work, what would those be?
Top three skills. Look, I think for anyone, it's going to be definitely around learning agility. We've just talked about learning, but there's that whole piece around how long does a skill actually last for? And I embed in my children as well, lifelong learning. So that constant ability for learning. I think the second piece is definitely around analytical skills. To your point before, there's no shortage of material out there. There's no shortage of data out there. It's about really being able to have a look at what's relevant, what's the source, is it reliable, etc. So I think analytical skills are going to be particularly important as well. And I think the third one, communication. There's the role that we still play as humans in an ongoing digitalization world is not just being able to communicate with others, but to receive communication and make sure messages are clearly sent and received. So I think communication is going to be incredibly important.
Absolutely. Great points there. John, what about the three power skills according to you?
I think I would start off with empathy as the first skill, right? In terms of your ability to understand what's happening around you in the world, right? Because what happens is that, the world today is not the world that was there yesterday, right? So your ability to read the world around you and therefore adapt to what is happening around you, right? And your ability to solution for people around you. Most of the time, the work that you're doing is not really for yourself, it's for some other stakeholder, right? They could be internal, external, so how do you solution right for them, right? So that becomes, empathy becomes part of that. That's number one. Number two is, as Natalie mentioned, your whole ability to be able to read data, understand data, interpret data, the whole analytical aspect of it. And over a period of time, build up analytical capability into what I would call critical thinking, right? The ability to critically analyze a scenario from multiple angles and then take the best judgment, right? So that's number two. Number three, we are seeing a lot of it today, is your ability to understand how AI works, right? AI is again another very evolving area today in the learning landscape, right? And there's been a lot of buzz around it. So your ability to understand AI in a very simple way, your ability to understand the application areas and how to make it work for the applications that you think it can add value to, right? Identifying and then making it work. So again, that becomes a very critical skill today, right? Because I think that's something that may change the entire landscape over the next 5 years.
Yes,
Right?
I
So
agree.
anyone who is able to do that fast is going to be able to definitely have a head start in that space.
I think those were some great skills, Natalie and John. I think going forward, as you said, your ability to keep on learning, having that learning agility, having those analytical skills, both of you said that are trying to understand the ability to understand data and help and enable yourself to make better decisions through data is going to be very important. Communication, empathy, understanding what the other person is going through so that you can help that person better in your job and in their job. That's going to be important. And obviously the future would be understanding technologies like AI, because the world is changing very rapidly when it comes to that. So thanks for sharing that. On that note, we come to this end of this very, very interesting conversation with Natalie and John. I think I learned a lot from the both of you. I think the core of all of this is that the learning ecosystem has really evolved in the past few years. It has come to align itself with business needs. It has come to align the skills requirement and the capability requirement of people and their own personal growth journey with the growth journey and business requirement of the business. I think that's good. That's going to be very, very important. And organizations who have understood that and have built really robust learning ecosystems which are very personalized, which are relevant, which give that opportunity to people to grow as they move forward and at their own pace. I think that's going to be very important. So thanks so much for sharing that, Natalie and John. It was a pleasure having you on this episode.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Thank you. So thank you everyone for joining us for yet another wonderful interaction. In case you've missed out on our previous episodes of Learn to Lead, you can now view them on our website, ETHR World Southeast Asia. You can also check out the link below to view the complete series on talent management and development for the future of work. And for now, we will take your leave, but stay tuned for another exciting episode. Take care and bye-bye.